Hi, Paint Grimdark and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be reviewing and painting the Hollow Guard by Tauros Creative, printed by Witchart 3D Printing, who reached out to me. They were interested in me painting them up, and of course I said yes. They're like, we just want a full and honest review, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to review the miniatures and the prints and the quality, and then we're going to move on to actually painting one of these up. I'm going to be painting all of them, but I thought for this tutorial we'd just focus on the one. Everything's time-stamped. It'll just be down in the description below. But without much further ado, let's get into the video. So when Witchart 3D Printing reached out to me to review their product, I was like, hell yeah, this sounds like a lot of fun, because it felt like a big collaboration between me, Tauros Creative, Witchart 3D Printing, and the guys who make the wargamer resin, which is the resin which Witchart 3D Printing use. They're both British-based, which is nice, and Witchart 3D Printing provide a printing service for creators and artists and miniature designers to get their designs into that sort of physical release. So I really enjoyed that sort of collaborative nature, and again, I love the miniatures from Tauros Creative. So the resin itself, it's super fun. It's really durable. The quality of the prints are insane. Like, they just look beautiful. And as a miniature painter, I'm always worried, and in the past it's happened, my miniatures do break. So all of that like time spent on a paint job to sort of go up in flames because of the sort of the quality of the resin is quite saddening. So you're kind of handling them like you're on ice. But with this stuff, it feels good and durable, and like you can just bend it and it just doesn't feel like it's going to snap. And it's the same with these, like the weapons, like they're not brittle, they're strong and like flexible, which is super cool, and I really appreciate that in resin. The service they provided was excellent. They sent it in this beautiful box, very sort of artisan in the sort of packaging, and they were just so nice to collab with and just to talk with, and they're super passionate about 3D printing. It's been great working with them, and I'm really happy with the sort of the quality of the miniatures, and they're just going to be an absolute gem to paint. So without much further ado, let's get into the painting. So to start off, we're going to mix up some Mechanica Standard Grey with some Banshee Brown. This will be a nice sort of kind of off grey brown base for our uniform. For the bone, we're just going to base it with Morghast bone. You can just use an off-white, be it cool or more sort of warm, and you can just change the variation to have that variation in the miniatures. We're just going to add some Castellan green to the base mix we used, and then we're going to keep adding green to that mix to make the grey greener and greener, but not too green. And we're just going to be covering the clothing area and stippling it onto the helmet. Now for the sort of highlights, I mixed some Karak stone with some Celestra grey to create an almost like an off-tan grey, which I then used to mix some Castellan green into it to elevate that sort of green into a more sort of a lighter grey green, which I used on the raised areas of the clothing. Leather was done with just a stippled base of Rhinox hide, followed by some Morghast brown, thinned down just to give a little bit more texture. The metals were base coated in Iron Warriors and then highlighted with some Lead Belcher, as the main sort of stuff we're going to do with the metals will come into the weathering. For the bone, I washed it with Reichland Flesh. I am using the Grimdark Compendium's recipe for bone. I'll link the video down in the description below, as I found it really useful when approaching a more sort of grimdark bone recipe. For the shield, I decided to paint a landscape. I myself am a landscape painter. It is something which I enjoy doing, and I just found it as an opportunity, well, just a sort of good excuse to indulge my love for painting landscapes onto the shield. For weathering, I used a unifying wash of Goon's Grime from Villainry Ink. Just make sure to shake it really well before using it. And then I used a Q-tip for a sort of more of a reductive pass, removing some of the Goon's Grime from the raised surfaces to reveal those highlights. And then I use a brush to sort of get a little bit more detail. I used Deposit Grey by AK Interactive on some of the bone areas to give it that really ancient look. And I also used some Abtalon Dark Rust for the rust effects on the armor. I then did something called soft pressing, which is a technique which is used very heavily in the sort of grimdark community, and that is where you take a sort of a sharp object and you softly press into the miniature to try and remove that sort of top layer of paint. The trick is not to try and remove all the layers of paint, but this will just give you some scratches. And with that, that is this guy all painted up, and he's looking pretty grimdark. I did use some AK Interactive Muddy Ground on the base, and I put some of it onto the boots just to sell that sort of muddy look. But yeah, I'm really happy with how he turned out, but I've been thoroughly impressed with the team over at Witch Arts 3D Printing, and again, I'm grateful that they reached out to me. This is not paid, this is just a collaboration between artists and printer and miniature creators and resin. So it's just been a super cool thing to work on, and yeah, I'm really happy with the result. I've put all of the links to everybody's stuff down in the description below, so if you want to check anything out, that's where you should go. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed yourself, and if you have, make sure to like, comment and subscribe. I really appreciate it, and it does help a lot. I've been painting from the loam, and until next time, goodbye.